Hello and welcome to the Urban League Fights for You virtual series. Today's webinar, Taxes in the Era of COVID-19, is brought to you by the Entrepreneurship Center Program and the CARES Act for Small Business. And now, please welcome Senior Vice President for Economics and Housing Programs, Cy Richardson.
Thanks very much, Simone. As the provider of opening remarks, I seem to have earned the right to stand on my soapbox for a few minutes to share what I know and believe, and how to frame how the Urban League addresses issues of systemic significance, such as the impact of tax policy and practice on minority small business formation and expansion. These views are my own, but I do suspect you'll hear some familiar nuggets. So for too long, our nation's tax system has benefited the wealthiest Americans and large multinational corporations at the expense of small business owners, their employees, and independent entrepreneurs. For instance, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act increased the deficit by $1.9 trillion, while dramatically lowering the rates for large corporations and the very wealthy with very little tax benefit for Main Street small business owners. In order to level the playing field for small businesses and restore our economy from bottom up, policymakers must implement measures that will help all entrepreneurs rather than giving tax breaks to those who need it least. A cornerstone policy for the incoming Biden-Harris administration is its own proposed $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief plan. The policy outlines a clear intention to deploy capital to Black and Latino-owned small businesses, a segment in the small business economy that has been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 global pandemic. However, entrepreneurs of color confront obstacles unique to their experiences that white business owners do not, as we all know, particularly ongoing discrimination in accessing capital and accessing critical business support services and benefits like retirement and healthcare. These problems have been highlighted by the current movement for racial equality, having dramatically worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic, as Black and Latino-owned businesses have faced the brunt of revenue loss and business closures. My message to you is to keep the faith and hold the line. The empowering speakers and dynamic content to follow will hone in on approaches and methods to eliminate systemic racial barriers to small business ownership, bolster entrepreneurship, and to build long-term financial sustainability. We're looking to promote a level playing field for minority-owned businesses and reinforce the health of communities that drive our economy. Nothing right now, in my view, is more American than that. And to the minority entrepreneurs joining us today, we deeply appreciate your bravery, your willingness to opt in by leaning in to this issue, and your current and future contributions to economic health and vitality in every corner of civil society. So please focus, engage, reflect, and plug in to what will be a compelling and informative webinar. We applaud you. Thank you very much. I'll now return the floor to the host. Simone?
Thank you, Sai. I'm going to jump in while Simone checks in. We may have some technical difficulties here. But I thank the National Urban League for such warm welcome and allowing us this platform to discuss tax, especially as we are approaching the 2020 tax filing year. So I want to invite my co-host, Ms. Michelle Levy. Let me make sure. And please pardon us technically challenged folks. Here we go. All right. Can everyone hear us okay out there? I think we have a thumbs up.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We want to get started. I mean, I'm excited that we have this platform to discuss the tax implications of all the COVID and the CARES Act, because both of us are tax professionals, and sometimes you get the questions and then you get the rumors, or I heard, so I didn't do this. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure we kind of be proactive and address you and give you the right information out there. Now, keep in mind, some of these programs are still changing and still evolving. Mm-hmm. For 2021, they're still looking for another stimulus package. So we are waiting just like you are, but as soon as the bills are finalized, we're on it and we're reading it. And I'm sure, like any other tax professional, is just to make sure to see how it best benefits you, your business, or you personally. So with that, let's get started. First, I wanted to talk about the personal, because those are more straightforward with the stimulus and the unemployment, Michelle. And then I think our meat and potatoes is the small businesses with the PPP and the EIDL. Mm-hmm. That sounds good?
Yes.
All right. So let's first talk about our recovery rebate credit. So to break it down, remember we had 2 cycles so far, our 2020 money and then our 2021 money. So first I'm gonna ask about the 2020. So those stimulus checks, Michelle, for someone who received their $1,200, first we're going to start with the people who received it. What do they have to do on their taxes when they file their 2020 taxes?
So first, let me say thank you to you and the National Urban League and the small business community for inviting me and being a part. We did have one slide. Would you like for me to share that, or just
sure.
Let's just go for it. So to answer your question, when they file their taxes, they will have to report the stimulus that they received, whether they received it in the summer of 2020 or they just received it in December or January of 21. In every tax return now, there is a whole portion called recovery rebate credit. And so if you did not receive any stimulus based on perhaps child support, that was the number one reason why some people didn't receive it, then your stimulus would be 0 because you physically did not receive it. It was credited to another offset that you had, but nevertheless, you still have to report it. So there are now 2 new lines on the tax return, one for the first stimulus and one for the second. So you have to report it there as that credit. If you did not receive any stimulus, then those 2 entries are going to be 0. And then you'll receive your recovery rebate credit as a part of your tax refund if you're due one when you file your taxes.
So now for the people that owe money out there, we want to let them know that that credit will offset the amount that's owed when they file, if they haven't received the rebate prior.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. So if you do owe, please don't be in despair. Make sure that your tax professional in the recovery rebate credit, that's a whole new portion. It's a new line item, and you have to go, I think it's only 3 questions on that whole portion for the rebate. Make sure if you do owe that your tax professional puts that you didn't receive anything, and that credit will offset whatever debt you may owe. So that includes back taxes. If you're on a payment arrangement of some sort, an installment agreement. I'm not sure if it covers the I'm not sure that if you're on the word is right here on the top, not installment agreements, but if you've done a compromise.
Mhm.
Yes, if you've done a compromise agreement, I'm not sure if it covers that. And so I like what you said, Charmaine. Yes, the bill is still evolving, and it's still so much daily that we're getting to read. So I have not seen that if it covers those offering compromises.
And I think the adjusted gross income limits are still what, 75 single and 150 married filing jointly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And your standard deduction went up $200. So where last year it was 1,200, now it's 12,200.
Mm-hmm.
And that 200 is for all filing statuses, single, married, except for married filing jointly, because they're at the single rate.
Yeah. And that's, I think I saw someone write in the chat that leads us into unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
With far as that unemployment, any benefit that you receive during this time is taxable. If you did not have taxes taken out ahead of time, you will receive a statement from your state agency, state unemployment agency, reporting that as income. And that can put some individuals in a compromising situation, especially where in the past you weren't used to owing taxes, or this may cause others to exceed the their earned income credit income limit. So it may be a challenging tax year with the benefits that have presented themselves. So I would agree with one of our participants. So that's why it really is important. Once you have all your documents, which you should be getting them by the first week in February, your W-2s, your 1099s, the report from the state, that you really have your professional go over it to see if we can maximize either your credits or deductions to help minimize that tax liability.
Ms. Charmaine, I wanna before we leave there, whether it's your unemployment, whether it's the stimulus payment that you received in the summer or in 21, please report it. Please do not overlook it, because both of those will come back, and we already have so many economic challenges that are facing us in our communities. And I know sometimes we feel the urge because we need a little bit more so that we can take care of our financial responsibilities, our homes, our family, our food. But please report it, because it will not go unseen. Let's just put it that way. So make sure that you report both of those, because they're so very important.
You bring up a good point, and unfortunately, I've been hearing there have been some investigations on the IG report where they're doing investigations of unemployment fraud.
Yes.
And that's, you're right. It's one of them that you can't hide from it. But I'm sure none of our participants have to worry about that. But that has been a red flag that has been has rearing its ugly head.
Yes. So please, and here in Texas, we don't, you have to go through that extra step to even just have federal withholding taken out. I do know that we've also, in the states that I do a lot of business in, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Oklahoma, a lot of those states have reported the fraud, as you've mentioned, where people were receiving unemployment, but then they were still working maybe a cash job or something like that. Please make sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that you're accurate on all the numbers and everything, because these are federal dollars. What can happen? You'll get a love letter from the U.S. Treasury Department, and you don't want to knock at the door. You don't want to receive that love letter in the mail saying, "Please, we want to come see you," and you don't want to have to pay something back because you were just trying to stay above water. So please just make sure, because the ramifications of the fraud attached to federal dollars are overwhelming. And that can put us in a whole different category financially. And it could put you and your family in another, and more anxiety than what you already have financially. So just make sure you report everything.
So with that, on the personal side, now we're going to shift gears and go into with our small business support.
This is the fun side.
Yes, yes. With our PPP plan and our EIDL for the small businesses. This has been an interesting roller coaster, to say the least. I don't know how it is in Texas, but in Maryland, I mean, it has been. So just to give a little background, I remember back in March when the first round of PPP funds were released. In Maryland, we had an issue, a huge disparity in our small businesses, Black-owned and Latina businesses not receiving the funding. So it was a huge article that we had the larger franchise were receiving millions of dollars, but our small businesses, our small restaurants couldn't get anything, were disqualified for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, that was a real blow. And just off the top of my head, it was a blow to our service industries, the hairdressers, barbershops, nail salons, the food industry, where they were forced to shut down. Anywhere that was face to face or that required some type of contact. I mean, it put our small businesses, it crippled them. It put them at a standstill. Who would have thought that we would be preparing for a pandemic?
Charmaine, let me tell you, please don't feel like Maryland that we did. Listen, it sounds as though Maryland and Texas almost mirrored each other, honestly. But I have so many friends across the country in our industry, and we're all saying, where did this come from? And so let me share with you some of the same sentiments you just shared. It happened here in Texas. There have been a lot of a few restaurants that I like that were mom and pop, small. They're gone. I passed down the street in the neighborhood where my mom still lives. The business is boarded up because they couldn't make it. But I want to share one of the things. I don't know what you saw in this, but I'm gonna share this. When the COVID happened, we were shut down, and the first round of the PPE and the EIDL loans came out. Everybody went frantic, right? Everybody was frantic. My phone was ringing off the hook. We couldn't answer the calls quick enough. We couldn't answer our, inboxes quick enough. But after doing research with all of these businesses, I don't know if you saw this, but we've experienced it, and it's very painful. There are so many of us, and I mean in our community, Black entrepreneurs, Latino entrepreneurs, small businesses. Charmaine, their paperwork wasn't right. That's why they couldn't get the access to the first round of funds, is because your business is not structured properly. You haven't been paying yourself. You have employees that you call employees, but you want to pay them on a 1099 so you can escape paying the payroll taxes. You're not paying your franchise tax. You're not filing your tax reports. So you have, and those were the stories that I was facing because, well, can you help me? No, we can't backdate paperwork. You know, and these were things that you should have already done. And so that's why I'm grateful to the National Urban League, to the Entrepreneurship Center, you know, for what you do in your community. I like the program that the National Urban League puts together because they care about our success. And so it's very hurtful to be in this community, and sometimes our hands are tied where we can't even help our own because I like you, Charmaine, but your paperwork not together.
Right.
Or, you know, Michelle, what were you doing with that? It's like, you've been in business how long and you don't have what? So I want to say that is what I faced in the life of my business during the first round of it. And it was very hurtful. And I'm going to be very transparent and say there was one day I actually cried. Because I have people that look like me. You're doing a great product, you're doing a great service, you know, you're in the community, not in the community, but you're self-employed and you're making your own way, but there's nothing I can do because your paperwork's not in order. And so it's devastating. And so that puts our communities back to ground zero, if you will. You know, COVID came, you gotta quarantine. So I'm not able to make any money. But then on top of that, when there's an opportunity, I can't even benefit from it because I don't have it. So that's what I experienced. And that's the one part that really hurt me. And so when I got the offer to be a part of this, I was excited because it's like, I sent this out to almost everybody I knew because it's like, come on, y'all, let's get it together. So this round, we can benefit from it. You know, let's do it right. And it's okay that we've all make mistakes. You know, I know I did in the life of my business when I first got started, because even though I knew better, I wasn't doing it because I thought I couldn't afford to do better. Does that make sense?
And sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
I told a client, I did a consultation. She's a home decor and beautiful staging and all of that. And I told her, if you gave me 5 items and say, decorate this living room, I'm gonna put all the 5 items in the corner. That's not my strong suit. So, so it's unfair for me to assume that you would know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think someone mentioned, well, where do we go to get the support? This is where I think accounting and tax prep, it's no cutting corners. You need an accountant.
Right.
You need a bookkeeper. You need someone to keep your books in order. Not necessarily, it may not be on a monthly basis. It may be on an annual consultation.
Right.
But it's one of those, you can't afford not to do it.
That's correct.
But the National Urban League and all of the local urban leagues, they do provide that technical assistance, that business coach, where they're not necessarily going to provide the service, but they can point you in the direction, or the network or the resources to get it done. And I think I'm a piggyback on what you said. Another big issue here was our personal property tax returns in the state of Maryland. So when everybody shut down, everybody was asking, oh, we need a certificate of good standing.
Yes.
The government was shut down and you were unable to get the certificate.
Yep.
So at a standstill. And once the agency opened up, they were working at a slower pace.
Backlog too.
Yeah. And so normally you had to pay some additional money. So it took a little longer than what normally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it is, you know, so when I know that the COVID is not a disaster related, it's not weather related disaster, but we are in a health and wellness pandemic. So this is still a disaster. And a few years ago, right after Harvey, as a part of the Harvey grant, we put together a resiliency package. How do we stay resilient as small business owners? What do I need to do to be resilient? One of the things is what you just simply said, stay connected to resources, right? If I'm not connected to you, then how can I get the right help? Listen, I know we like to Google, but Google is not our friend when it comes to running your business. Don't laugh at me, Charmaine. You know I'm telling the truth.
You're right.
Because
you get the basic information.
right. I mean, if it's something very simple, sure, I Google too. But if it's something that's related to my business itself, I don't Google, I'm not gonna Google that because I need to go past the two lines that Google. I will tell you, I am a product of the Houston Area Urban League, the Small Business University, a proud alumni of that. And that's probably been 7 years, even in the life of my business. And we've had some exceptional growth. Charmaine, I still call um, our director of the center. He knows me very well, Mr. Eric Goody. I talked to our Urban League president, even if he's coming through the building. He said, hey, Ms. Levi, how's everything going? You know, it's funny you ask, what do you think about this? And so having the resources available to help small businesses is such an amazing thing. And it's just sometimes I think we're hard-headed. You know, I kind of want to do it myself. I can't afford to pay Michelle. I can't afford to pay Charmaine. So I want to do it myself, but then I've made a mistake and now I can't fix it. And so hence here we are again with the second round. So what's going to happen this go around with everybody?
And with that, I wanted to address a couple of questions that we had going on, or maybe dispel some of the rumors. So first of all, for the PPP, apply for your forgiveness. If you received the first round of money, make sure you apply, check your email, you will get it from your funding source. So if it was a bank, CDFI, whoever you received it from, that's where you'll get the forgiveness application.
Yes.
Make sure, and they don't all come out at the same time.
No. And there is a simplified version out there depending on your bank. Okay. So, you know what I mean? So some of the forgiveness, I had one client sent me about 20 documents last week. I'm like, what is this? He was like, this is what the bank gave me. And then I've had some that just received a one pager. So please listen to your financial institution. I know that some of the banks are offering simplified, which is great, because it will be an easier process to see what's forgiven. Right. You know, and that's the magic word right now. Do I have to pay this back? Is this forgiven? Right. It's like, well, what that paperwork say?
Right. And so, and a couple things that come out of it, because the way, if a loan is forgiven or not forgiven, it depends on how it's handled. So let's go on the side, if it's not forgiven, then that's a loan on your books. So yes, that's how we would have to report it, and with anticipation that you'll be paying it back.
Yep. And so with that, as an added note, they make sure that they look at their installment dates and their maturity dates. Because if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, if they received their first round last year, their payments aren't due until later this summer, I believe, in some situations. So if it is not forgiven, I would suggest that you start making interest payments. Right? Even if you can't afford to make the entire principal, what about making a simple, and I'm saying simple, so I don't want to minimize that, but if you can't afford to pay the whole monthly amount, then start by just making your interest payment. But please don't ignore that if it's not forgiven. Call your banking institution and make arrangements until you're able to make that first payment.
Now, and the beautiful thing on this loan, this is established business credit for your business.
Yes.
So that's the beautiful, I can't think of a time ever in the history, and I'm not going to say my age, it's easy to get an SBA loan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's normally you have to bring the whole Bible and your kids' blood type there to get, and no disrespect, it's a beautiful program,
Yeah.
but it does require a lot of information.
Charmaine, that old SBA program, I love them too, but that was like buying a house.
Yeah.
So, it's like, oh, this house is so beautiful and I want it. But it's like, why do these people keep doing this to me? So I'm in agreement with you. If you're able, take advantage of it. But please look at your maturity dates. Please, if it is not forgiven, then please make sure that you reach out to your bank, complete the forgiveness applications completely, provide all the information, don't leave anything out, do not submit without completion, because you are looking for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not forgiven, please don't feel despaired, right? Just take the next step and see what is it that I can do financially to, make payments again,
Mm-hmm.
to start that up again.
So then so that was the first round of PPP in 2020. So
Mhm.
before we go into the second round, then we have the EIDL that came out shortly around that time as well through the SBA, short application, and that allowed businesses to receive a little larger amount and a year of deferment. And I believe the interest rate is at 3.75 and it's payable over 30 years.
Yes, ma'am. And that is like a home mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that loan was a lot more stringent
Mm-hmm.
because of the loan amounts and the maturity life. So depending on what you took out of that or what you received out of that EIDL, you are paying a second mortgage.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you're
Mm-hmm.
even though you receive that money and your business still has to close, you're still going to be responsible for that loan. And I hate to say it like that, but that's just really what it is. If your business does not make it, and I'm hoping that each of you that are a part of this program today will do your best to try to be resilient and keeping your businesses alive and open and making the profit. But if not, you still have to be responsible for that. And the EIDL portions, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen the forgiveness portions on those yet, but I have on the PPE. And so we just got to be careful of I know I don't want to use the word desperate, but I know there's a sense of urgency,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, and I know for you, I have staff,
Mm-hmm.
I have overhead. And so what's in the back of your mind? I got every 2 weeks, I have, 10 people to pay. And so I know when there's an urgency, I don't like to use the word desperate, but when there's a sense of urgency, sometimes as business owners, we don't read and we don't make the right choices. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, but just kind of make sure that you read. There are grants available.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what you guys have done, in Maryland, but I do know that some cities and counties have offered grants to small businesses based on, the county that they live in. And some of those grants are not, taxable because they are gifts.
Right.
So I would suggest here in the city of Houston, I know the city had a grant. Harris County offered a grant. The state of Texas offered a grant. don't play with Texas. That packet for that, they wanted so much stuff. I'm like, you know what? If you don't need them, don't do that. I mean, it's worth it though. I mean, I know we're joking about it, but it's really sincere. But check your local government agencies to see who has grants available. Check your community programs, your community development organizations, to see if they have any grants available. So please check to see what grants are available. I know that a few states, I don't know about Maryland, but I know here in Texas, what they did is they made a COVID resource sheet. And so on that, it gives resources for loans and grants. So check your local agencies to see if they have, if they have something similar available for you, so that you can see what kind of grants are available. And grants you don't have to pay back. Right. They were offering grants as little as 5,000 here up to 50,000. Mm-hmm. After the 50, then you go more into the heavy lending. But grants are not taxable because that is a gift. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so.
Well, you still have to report it. I don't want people to say, you still have to tell your tax professional about it, and then they'll know how to handle it. But yes, we had the same thing. We had local and state grants available. We had a lot of corporations. I know in Maryland, like our Baltimore Gas and Electric, they're offering grants. So a lot of the corporations are starting to step up and offer micro grants.
Yes.
The same span between 5,000 and maybe 25,000. So I think, yes, it's a lot of resources. It's like you said, it's being in that network and knowing, and time is of the essence.
Yes.
That brings me to the EIDL. They had two components of it. One was an advance grant, and then the other was the loan. So the advance, you could accept that advance grant and not accept the loan.
See, I did not. And to be honest with you, Charmaine, I just read that. I did not know very many people that applied for the EIDL the first time. Mm-hmm. So I did not, I will be honest and say, I did not read that whole packet on that, because that's not where, my response was. But so I just learned that.
But I'm gonna tell you also what was interesting. I know for a fact on the EIDL, they did a soft pull on the personal credit as well.
Really?
So I don't know if that's just something people want to be aware of, if there is a default or if you're paying timely. Oh, EIDL, and now I got to remember these acronyms. I think it is the
Economic Income
Disaster Loan, Economic Income Disaster Loan.
Yes.
And that was a result of the CARES Act. Mm-hmm. So they, they did a pull on personal credit as well. So it may benefit your personal credit or be to the detriment if that loan goes in default. So just FYI. Let's see, I want to make sure. So, okay, I want to go real quick on 2021, and it's the PPP. A lot of that's like ever changing. I know that application is out there, and honestly, I have a few clients that are assisted with the application.
What'd you think?
Well, we kind of stopped.
You're like, well, wait a minute.
Yes. So I don't know. I'm interested. Have you had anybody that's been funded through this 2021 PPP?
No, ma'am, I have not. To be honest, everything that I've been receiving right now has helped me with the forgiveness. Okay. So a lot of my clients have, and then I've, had referrals that weren't even my clients. Hey, can you help me with this? So right now, that's what we're seeing here in a lot is the banks are sending out the applications for forgiveness. And so they're working on that. I have not started any new processes with anyone. I do know that there are a few clients that have said that they wanted to apply for it, but not that we've started. Really, I think everybody's just trying to get caught up, you know, and making sure that they can meet the forgiveness portion so that they can apply. And because I've been trying to survey my clients, there are a few people that said, you know, they got notifications and saying, hey, you know, we're waiting on funding. We're working on the application. We're going to start the second round, maybe February or March. So we've been seeing a lot of that here as well. So nothing, no new applications, just trying to close out what you've already received and awaiting for the second. So for those people, like I received a call yesterday from a new client. He said, hey, I was referred to you. So what I'm going to suggest to you is you get everything in order so you can be prepared for the second round. If you did not receive the first round, how can you be better this time around and be a little bit more successful? So even if that means changing banking, not your business banking, but I mean lending options. If that means you have to try a different lender, then that may be an option for you.
And you know, we spoke about the forgiveness, but I want to make sure, along with the forgiveness, you have to be in compliance on what the PPP was asking for, that you had to spend at least, with it 75% on the payroll. So I wanted to, because that became one of my issues with one of my clients. He removed the payroll. He did pay the money out, but he did 1099.
Wow.
And we were, and I was.
How did he do that? How did he?
He wasn't following directions, so he wasn't following, and he was an S corp. So yes. So I just want to make sure that we are aware we have to be in compliance when you ask for the forgiveness. It's not, I'm writing myself a check for this $10,000 or $20,000 and I'm paid, you know.
Man, he was doing creative financing.
Yes, but not so creative.
Creative financing. But the other thing that I wanted to say too, I know that they're in the forgiveness. If you did not retain all of the employees, please be able to document why or what happened. So let's just say I made you an offer to come back and someone else you already took a job. Then you have to be able to document that. So make sure you're documenting everything. Okay, make sure you're documenting everything. If they were an employee and they just, you know what, I don't like you, and they just don't want to come back to work, then you just leave it at that. So just make sure that you're documenting in that process to be forgiven, especially when it comes to your employees, because in the new CARES Act that was just signed in December, one of the new exciting things about that is an employee retention credit. So make sure you're structured properly, you're paying your employees, because that's a nice new credit that you want to be able to take advantage of.
And I want to give my hats off to a lot of my small businesses, because this was what we struggled with during the time of the pandemic. When you have small mom and pop, it's the heart of our economic community, because now they have become family. And a lot of people did not want to lay off any of the staff because they knew how that would affect their household.
Yes.
But couldn't really afford to house the staff with, say, where their business has been cut by 50% or 75%. So I'm really pleased with that employee retention, because I know a lot of people gave up everything to retain their employees, and even if it was the detriment of their business.
Yes, ma'am. I commend those. I know a few of those here in the city, And I do know that that was such a major sacrifice.
Mhm.
So that credit will, that employee retention credit is, I like that. I like that they did it. I don't like everything in a new CARES Act, but I like that.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I like that one. So there you go.
All right, so I wanted to also go through my notes real quick. I wanted to reinforce, a couple people would come and say, well, I haven't filed 2019 because they filed an extension. The extension ended October 15th. Get those 2019s filed and go ahead while you at it, start filing your 2020.
That's
Because
right.
what I can say is the IRS and the Treasury, everyone dispersing these funds, as sooner or later, it's going to be some type of compliance behind it. All of
Yes.
these agencies communicate with one another and things may catch up. So if you receiving money or you start generating income, they want to check and make sure you file taxes and everything that you put on your forgiveness applications aligns up with what you're filing in your taxes.
Yes.
So if you leave here with nothing else, I know doing taxes is one of those stressful things where you tense up, and hire a tax professional, take that stress off of you.
Well, I'm so glad. I want to just piggyback off that one statement you just made. Hire someone. Charmaine, you know, like I know, and anybody else in our seats right now in this industry, the tax returns forms have changed tremendously. New forms, new line items, different changes. Please stop relying on TurboTax and all. I did say that out loud, didn't I? I hope they
Well,
not.
unless you're a student, unless you're a
Yeah.
student with one W-2 and
Yeah, something simple.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm cleaning that up. Something simple, right?
Mm,
But for those of us that are business owners, that are employers, that pay benefits, that have staff, overhead, please seek a trusted resource in your area. Please do that. I know that check your local small business centers, if you will. If you're in a city that has an urban league small business center, that is your resource. You can go online to the National Urban League and click on Entrepreneurship Center. That's why they're here. That's why we're here today. That's why we're part of this, is because they want you. We want you to make sure that you have the trusted resources. So please, this is going to be a very strange tax season, right? So please don't, there's so much you can benefit from with the different credits for businesses that have become erected in the CARES Act. So take advantage of all of those. Employee meal expenses have now been, are now at 100%, where we weren't, yes, where we weren't doing that. I know during COVID, a lot isn't open. So let's just say you bought lunch for your office because of course they can't go out and people can't come in. So 100% of that is done. For those of us that are paying payroll taxes and employer taxes, your FUTA and those taxes, file the reports, but there is an extension to pay. Okay. And there's also a credit that's available if you qualify. So please take advantage of a trusted resource during this turbulent tax season. And just know that me and Charmaine didn't do it. We wasn't in the meeting when they made the new changes, right? So we're gonna do the best we can to relay the information to you. We're gonna do our part to like we're doing now to make sure you understand it. But please, there's so many changes. If you're a business owner at any level, a sole proprietor, S Corp, C Corp, please reach out to a business center so that they can perhaps make some suggestions or even share with you, some trusted accounting firms, CPA firms that can help you.
And I think that is a good, that's a good segue, because we may also have some entrepreneurs on here who have been operating as a sole proprietor. And maybe during this COVID, their business has soared. They've shifted. Maybe the sole prop that's out there that was selling masks. So
Yes.
so I want to speak to my entrepreneurs. You can also shift into a single member LLC, into an S corp. Once you see that shift is moving in your business to really formalize your business structure, don't be afraid. I think, let's piggyback with what Michelle said. We just have a hired professional. I'm gonna take this from another workshop I was in with a banker presenter, and she said she calls it the bail for any businesses: a banker, an accountant, an insurance person, and a lawyer.
Oh.
Those are the four major components
That you need. That's it.
With running a business. And not to say you retain them on a month to month, but just whenever you have a question that comes up, you need that trusted professional to be able to call and to check in.
Yes.
I see some of the
there's so many questions. I'm trying to catch up, and it's like, I don't want her to think I'm not listening, but it's like, these are some really good questions.
Yeah. Oh, I did see one. The electronic filing for businesses, the portal opens up for IRS. It's February 12th,
yes.
I believe. Now,
someone else just asked, is the Miss Belinda, is the filing deadline still April 15th? Yes, ma'am. That's what we're being told right now. It's still April 15th. So if you are an S corp or a partnership, your due date is March 15th. If you're a corporation, your due date is April 15th, and nonprofits are May 15th. So please make sure you file accordingly, depending on what your classification is.
Oh, someone asked me to repeat the bail. Banker, B is for banker, A is for accountant, I is for insurance. Oh, okay. And then L is for lawyer. Got it.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, so beginning February 12th, as of now, it's ending April 15th. Now, if you owe taxes, that you will need to send in estimated payments, because they will charge you interest and penalties.
Ooh, I just hate it when y'all get them love letters. That's what I call them, love letters.
And I like that you put that in, because I want people to know, don't try to hide those love letters, because they will come. Bring them in. We welcome them, so we know what we're working with.
When I first got started with my mentor, and we were going through that, I said, I think I'm just gonna call them love letters. So I've been calling them love letters for quite a while, because that's the only way you can put that.
I love it. You're right. And it's but it's interesting. I've had clients, they refuse to open the letters. Now, a couple of the letters have been positive, like, oh, you overpaid and there's a credit. So don't be afraid to open them. Sometimes you'll get a little good news, or sometimes it's something very simple, because the IRS, they're not perfect either. They make mistakes, or they may say, look, we don't see such and such form that was filed. Can you send it back?
Yes.
So sometimes it can be an easy fix.
So please, I'm with you. Please open the mail. I had one client, and she was a senior, and she was referred to me. And at the end of the day, at the end of the story, she was a victim of identity theft because of her age. But she had been receiving mail, and she didn't know, because she knew, I've been retired for so many years. She don't know why they sent it to her, but she never really found out. And so she was talking to her neighbor. She brought me the letters. Come to find out, she was a victim of identity theft, and they'd been trying to reach her to just confirm that it was not her. And so She started crying. I say, ma'am, please don't cry. Because then I started crying and I just got put my eyelashes on. And we all sitting here crying. So, but I get it. She felt a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not funny, but now that we think about it, and so now she refers everybody to me because she was simply embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I said, please don't be. So we all got to get better and be a little bit more transparent with that. And remember, as your accounting professionals, we have a code of ethics. So whatever you share, we're not going to share. We're not going to judge you. But we got to know the truth. Don't come with that creative financing and your idea already in your mind, how you want me to make your paperwork look. Charmaine, you laughing because you know that's the truth. So just, just be straight with us. And so there are so many things that are available to small businesses right now. You guys, you would just be so surprised. But if we're doing business right, and I think as business owners, I think that's why we struggle a lot, because we're suffering in silence. We want to be better, but I don't know how to be better. I don't know what the next step is to be better. And then when you start to make changes in a broken system, you start thinking something wrong. It's like, no, man, this is how it's supposed to been doing already. So just don't be embarrassed about wherever you are in the life of your business. There's always room for growth. There's always room for opportunity. There's always room for resiliency. And if you want to grow, you got to be right. That's the only way to say that. If you want to grow, you got to be right. If you want help, you got to be right. And the National Urban League's Entrepreneurship Center, that's what this is about. It's supporting people in our communities. That meets with the, with the mission of the National Urban League, is empowering our communities and changing lives. Charmaine said it. As a small business owner, I got to make sacrifices to keep my staff working, because my staff go back into the community and then they put money into their community. So.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, please do that.
Yeah, and I agree. We have laughed and joked about some situations, but you're right. It's no judgment. I think this is both of our passion to help uplift our community. And it's a lot of phenomenal talent where people have great ideas. I've seen the young people, I'm in awe of them with what they're doing with the apps and just having that creative freedom.
Yeah.
And I look like I'm the one that should be begging you to work with, because I'm in awe of what's out there. I would love to support you and support your business to help you prosper along. I mean, that's it. That's what gives you the joy right there. When you see a business succeed, you don't want to be worried about any accounting and taxes. I mean, that's what our little nerdy stuff, what we like to do. So we're saying
we gotta graduate from nerds. We gotta find us a new word. But if we don't do what we're just doing our part.
That's it.
To better everybody. So that's really what that is.
I think that's a good wrapping point.
Charmaine and Michelle, we have a few questions that came through the chat. Thank you both so much for such a lovely presentation. You guys ready for questions?
You're ready.
Yes.
Okay, I know you've answered a few throughout the session, so if there are repeats, forgive me, but there was a lot of engagement in the chat box as well as the Q&A feature. Yeah, no, it's amazing. So let's start off with the first question. What are some of the tax treatments of amount received under the Paycheck Protection Program for 1 and 2?
What are some of the
tax treatments? I'm not sure how this question was worded because it came through via one of an email.
I think we were talking about it can be forgiven or it can be treated as a loan. And if it's treated as a loan, it's not taxable income. Well, and if it's forgiven, it wouldn't, mm, they don't have it as, are they treating it as taxable income?
Well, I'm sorry, what was the question?
As far as the PPP, what are the the tax treatment of the PPP for PPP 1 and 2?
As far as repayment?
Well, I'm saying if it's repayment, it's not taxable. The money received is not taxable income, but you can reduce the interest. But my question now, I have to think about it. If it's forgiven, is that tax free? Is that
If it is, if the poor, so let's just say you got 150,000, but only 50,000 of it is forgiven based on that application, right? Your forgiveness portion, then 100,000 of that you owe the balance on. So you got to start making payments. You got to, interest, penalties, and all of that. So the key really is the forgiveness. So you want as much of that forgiven, because whatever is not becomes taxable, and then it becomes a debt to you.
right?
And then the maturity debt, man, I've seen some maturity debt that's, I know we was, kind of mentioned it earlier, but depending on the amount of the loan that you took and the amount of the loan that's forgiven, your maturity on the unforgiveness portion is astronomical. So you want to start with your lender. Start with completing your forgiveness application and be very, very accurate. And please answer all the questions, whatever documentation. I do know of one person that got the entire loan forgiven because they had documents for payroll, the taxes, the rent that was back paid. Every expense was legitimate. So the amount of the loan that they received went everything into the business. So that was easy because you had a short financials on that. This is what I did with it. And then here you go. And so because you have the application with the backup, the receipts, his whole loan was forgiven. So if it's forgiven,
taxes on it because all of the expenses offset the income. So that's
yes,
perfect.
ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
right. Yep.
Okay, that's great. All right, let's move to the next question. If someone made too much to qualify for the stimulus and owes taxes, will that credit offset that bill?
If you qualify for the credit. And I'm sorry to say that like that. So when you go to file your taxes, please make sure, we spoke early on about it. It's called the recovery rebate credit. If you qualify for that credit, then it can offset some debt, because remember, if you get a credit, it becomes a refund. But if you already know that you owe whatever that amount was credited to you, that they're saying is going to be a refund, you're not going to get it because it's going to offset whatever debt you have.
But if you made like $100,000, then yeah, you wouldn't. If you're
anything over 75,
yeah,
you're not gonna.
You're not gonna get any stimulus checks. Sorry.
No,
Okay.
sorry.
Great. Okay, next question. Are you able to write off current inventory you have on hand that you could not sell because events were canceled?
Ooh. So what kind of, well, I don't want to go down that, but so if you have a CPA, right? And you've been keeping track of your inventory in your POS system. December 31st, whatever was in your inventory is a part of your cost of goods. So remember, and Ms. Charmaine, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the beginning of the year, you write inventory on hand, and at the end of the year, you write inventory at the end of the year. And so you also have to account for what's on hand. If it is food, you cannot sell that because most food is not perishable. So that's going to be probably more damaged. If it's some type of supply, then that's just a part of your cost of goods for your 2020 taxes. And so you can take that loss that way. There is no other option for that. It has to happen through your cost of goods, and it has to happen through your 2020 tax return.
So it's almost you treating it like you did in the past.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. All right, next question. Can any COVID relief loan be properly used to fund new initiatives of a small business, i.e. capitalization of a new product line, anything along those lines?
I don't know about you, Ms. Charmaine, but I have been reading. It's a lot, y'all. We laughing because y'all don't know what the book look like. But so I have seen something, but I don't have clarity on that because that's something that's new. And so if you reach out to me, I can probably get a more defined answer for you on that, because it's not a short answer.
Now I would say what I've been telling clients, because where the law is definitive, you can't create a new business. However, you can expand your current business.
Right.
So maybe if you're expanding a product line or to meet the need, or maybe you are a sit-down restaurant and now you have to pivot into a carry-out, and that may require some type of investment.
Yeah.
But it is a gray area, because you can't be a restaurant and say, okay, now I want to start renovating homes and use that money to buy property. So that's where it gets a little sticky and gray.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
All right, next question. Some good
Look,
questions.
that was a good save, Ms. Charmaine, because I was like, my mind just be twirling. I was like,
And some of these questions, it's hard to answer in the general. We try not to get too specific.
Right, too specific, right. I'm trying to highlight the questions that I think are, applicable for all attendees, but there's some very specific questions. And I mentioned in the chat box that it's okay to follow up with the both of you just for the questions that are a bit more region specific and or industry specific. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so let's keep rolling. Okay, here's the next one. On the 2021 package, can someone apply for the EIDL advance? And also, is it true that the advance is only available to those in low-income neighborhoods?
Have you heard that?
I haven't heard, not low income, they called them, it's the new buzzword. I want to say empowerment zone, but it's not.
Opportunity zones, is that what it's called?
Say it again.
Yes.
Opportunity zones?
Yeah, maybe opportunity zones or revitalization zones. However, I have seen some businesses, and I hate to say it's almost, for Baltimore City and County, it's almost citywide, except for a couple of pockets in our area. So most of the clients that I had to apply for it, they were able to qualify for the grant through the EIDL and through the funding. And even in some affluent areas, as now I'm thinking about it, I've seen it. They were funded through affluent areas as well. So, but I think maybe their internal, it has to be a certain percentage has to go to maybe the opportunity zones or.
Okay, great. All right, next question. Will the EIDL loans be reported on your personal credit report?
So they pull your personal credit.
Yes.
So with my business, I applied for the EIDL and everything is electronic, but the only reason why I knew, I'm one of those anal people that get the little ding on your phone when somebody pull your credit. I'm like, who? And it said SBA. So it did pull my credit. It has not shown up on my personal credit report yet, but sometimes it can take a little longer. But it did pull my credit.
Especially if you miss a payment. Yeah. So if you're as long as you're in good standing, I don't believe it'll be reflective. But if you perhaps maybe are late, miss a payment, then I think when that becomes more of your credit reporting. So be careful.
And, but one of our participants wrote that they are a loan officer with SBA and the EIDL advance is no longer available since July 16th, 2020. Thank you, Ms. Frazier.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier.
Thank you.
And you know what? I do believe EIDL, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they had a credit limit, PPP as well. They did have a personal credit requirement. Is that, I think, was it 570, 580? If I'm, okay, 570.
570.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and Ms. Frazier said it won't be reflected on your personal. So that's good to know.
Awesome.
Look, I learned something today.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Learning happens everywhere. All right, let's jump into the next question. This question is coming from an entrepreneur that's starting up a business. And the question is, are there any recommendations for startups in regards to grant funding? Any advice for lending?
I would tell you, if you're just a very new startup, that you should reach out to the Entrepreneurship Center with the National Urban League, honestly, because depending on where you are, they have urban leagues throughout the country that have small business entrepreneurship centers. And so those centers can, they each have programs, resources, and information available that can help you to get a good start.
Yes, I placed my email in the chat box. So whoever provided that question, please feel free to email me and I can connect you to the the closest center to you to get those questions answered.
Back on that, Corinne, before you move on.
Sure.
With the entrepreneur centers, I was working with the one in Baltimore. We did have opportunities for startups. So, but they were industry specific. So I think Michelle I think that's excellent advice. It may be a startup in tech, or it's a startup in manufacturing, but the National Urban Leagues, they would have those resources. I think that's a great place to start.
Perfect. Okay. Here's another question. Do you assume that the stimulus can be absorbed by your tax due if taxes are owed? I think we might have covered that one.
We did, but it's such a concern for so many.
Yes, absolutely. And folks are coming in.
Yeah, so it's okay to repeat it. If you have a current tax debt, then if you did not receive the stimulus, before you assume anything, I would tell you to log on to irs.gov and go to my account. You can look at your transcript history. You can look at your account history. And in those histories, they'll tell you if you have a current debt. I can tell you that student loans are not taking your stimulus right now. They're in deferral until, I think the date was sometime in the spring. I'm not sure about that date, but so they have not taken it. If you have child support or past due child support obligations, your stimulus was taken to provide support to the children that you're behind on. But as far as your past due tax obligations, there were some cases that the IRS did it and some did not. If you did not get it, please look onto complete a profile at the irs.gov and see, what that tells you. And again, if you did not receive a stimulus, when you go to your rebate recovery credit, you put 00 because you didn't receive anything in the first round or the second round. So whatever credit you'll get in your tax return, it will offset, and then you'll have a clearer idea of why the offset and who do you exactly owe.
Okay, great. Thank you. If forgiveness is not approved, can you appeal?
I believe you can appeal almost anything, but when it comes to lending, I do not have a clear answer. Do you, Ms. Charmaine? I don't know if we can appeal those type of, because those funds were given to banks at their discretion. So you had to meet your banking requirements for the lending. So I'm sure you could probably ask questions to your loan officer. I do know that there were some people that applied early on that were denied, and they received a letter of denial explaining why. And if you had questions, you can contact your lender. But I'm really very not clear on that appeal process.
Okay, great. And let's see this question. Let's do this one. In general, what programs help to get paperwork in order for taxes?
Charmaine. So I would say seriously, so this is what I had this conversation just this morning. So if you go to whatever bank or lender you want to use, right? You go to the lender and see what their requirements are for the lending. And then if you have a CPA, right, that can help you to prepare, because you're going to need financials at some point, right? You're going to need that help with the application. So you got to reach out to that trusted source that we've been talking about. So look and see get a copy of your application, read what the documents are. If you don't have some of the documents that they're asking for and you've been using, a CPA, an accounting firm and so forth, then they may have copies of the records that you need to obtain. So that is my best answer for that, is to help you with that. I've helped people, I know Ms. Charmaine have, you just have to, you got to be able to have that trusted resource that we keep talking about to help you to put it in order so that you can be accurate in what you're reporting. But start with the application so you'll know what you're looking at.
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, that's great. I think we have time for perhaps 2 more questions. So let's jump into the next one. We have a question around a bank. A bank told this respondent that they're waiting on new legislation as paperwork has been simplified. Is this the right call to wait?
My suggestion or opinion is, if that is your bank and that's who you want to bank with, then you want to follow their regulations. Ms. Charmaine?
So I would agree. However, if we have a anxious person, I would let you know, it's some CDFIs out there that are lending, community development financial institutions. So they are not the traditional banks. It may be like a Lendistry, a Cabbage, more of the online portal. Now, the downside is it's all electronic and you may not have access to a customer service rep to support you, or access to a banker to say, hey, I have a question. It's these online portals. So it depends. But I think I would just say that's an option. But I'm with you, Michelle. I prefer who I have relationships with.
I am so big on relationship building and staying, trusting the network of people that you built the relationship with. So that's my best answer.
Sounds good. All right. This person reports using the SBA funds to purchase a company vehicle. How will this be taxed?
That's Charmaine.
She pulled back her seat.
I know, and the only reason why I'm a little squeamish. So I hope it's a maybe you're a catering company and you purchase a catering van, or
Yeah,
it was something, and we don't have a brand new Mercedes sitting out in the back, because I have had clients with that where they say, oh, I'm buying a company car, and purchase this high-end luxury car.
that's right.
So how it's treated, it is depreciated. There is the write-offs. However, I just want to keep in the business side of me is, if you purchase any asset, in which a vehicle would be that asset, is it generating revenue?
Mm.
So if it's depleting your revenues, that's not a good thing. But we will depreciate it. We put it on the books and list it as an asset, and it will be depreciated. And if it's a loan on it, we would treat the loan where we would deduct the interest and amortize it over. So we would treat it as in the past. The only thing is, I would hope that it's is truly essential part of the business and generate more revenue.
Great. Do we have time for just one more question?
Sure.
All right. Do you have to pay employees at their current hourly rate, or can you reduce hourly rates? A little bit of an oddball
Is
question.
that with the PPP? Maybe they're saying once they receive the PPP.
Perhaps, yeah, I thought it was interesting to at least cover it.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Ms. Charmaine, if I'm wrong, but if you received funds to keep your same staff, you keep them at the same rate, because that is how you're going to benefit from the credit at the end of the year. I know we didn't talk a lot about those small business credits, but when you get the loan, you retain the staff at the rate you hired them at. And then there are a couple of small business credits that you can benefit from because you did retain them. So
you can reduce hours. So
you can reduce hours, but not the dollar rate. So real quickly, what I did, so I kept my staff. I didn't apply for anything because I was closing on my house at the time. But what I did is I reduced everybody's hours. So in the first part of the COVID, the office was not open at all. We were all virtual from our, emails, messaging, so forth. And then in May, when we went back into the office, we went back into the office part-time. It was 3 days a week, and it was only half days. So they were only probably working 12 hours a week, but it was still at their regular rate that they were at prior to COVID. And so since the office is still not completely open, but they have more hours in the office, if that makes sense. So we're hybrid, but it's still at their rate.
Okay, great. And I think that concludes our Q&A session. Charmaine and Michelle, there were a few other questions that had come through while we were going through the other questions. So I will be sure to send all the questions to you, and we can figure out a way to get those answers to attendees.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Well, it seems we have reached the end of our program. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Devon, Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Business Development at the National Urban League. And on behalf of myself and Corin and Simone and the entire Urban League team at National, I want to thank our presenters, Michelle and Charmaine, for an absolutely terrific and engaging presentation, for all of the advice and information that you provided to our attendees. I just have to say that these ladies are a perfect example of why we do the work that we do and how important it is, as they've also said, to reach out to our entrepreneurs entrepreneurship centers. We have amazing people with great expertise and information and resources to share, might I mention, for free in most cases. So please avail yourself of our resources. Feel free to visit our website at nul.org. Again, that's nul.org. Please take advantage of all the resources we have to offer. Thanks to everyone for joining today, and have a great day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.